Hey guys, back here with another video. So I had a couple of you that were interested in seeing basically how I did my engine run stand. What I do is I start off with one of these small block, big block Chevy engine cradle sets. They're 14 gauge, they're good for 1,000 pounds, and they come powder coated. They just need assembled. And this is basically the start of everything. This is just kind of laying on here. So come with some 3-inch caster wheels, all the bolts and hardware to go ahead and assemble these. So this is the start of it, the base. Once we get those put together, what I'll do is I have 2 long sticks here, 14 gauge. I will go ahead and cut those to length, and I build off of this. That's how I do this. I'll go ahead and build a battery tray for this thing, and then I will build off of the back, up off the back to raise this thing up to build where all the gauges will set. So this is the start of the engine stand itself. You can actually, the previous one I had was removable. That way I could go ahead and take the back off, and you could just use this as a cradle to roll around if you wanted to. That's not probably what I'm going to do with this one. I'll probably weld these onto this, and we'll go ahead and get into it. Alright, so we got the engine cradle assembled. One thing I noticed with these kits, they actually come with a 5/16 hole, and they supply 1/4-inch bolts. So we went ahead and put 5/16 bolts in to make it stronger, and then also some washers in there, just so when you do tighten these, it doesn't sink down into the metal. It just makes it a little bit stronger. So I'll go ahead and start getting measurements, and we'll cut these pieces here, and I'll get them to where we'll start building up on this thing to make the gauge panel where it'll sit. No, I actually would like to watch that show. I just haven't yet.
I've seen parts of it, but I'm just always so busy.
Oh, everybody really likes it.
Right.
It's a good show, supposedly. Yellowstone. So we have like Netflix and Hulu and all those others. I'm sure we have one of those that we can actually watch the show on.
Right. I don't know what they watch it on.
I'm not sure. So here's the battery tray I made. I just have it to where it's going to bolt onto here, onto the side, like such. Hopefully that'll be out of the way for where the headers will be. Main thing is trying to figure out your width. I had it a certain width that I wanted, and then ended up going a little bit bigger, so that's why those gaps are there. I might weld them up, I might not, I don't know. It's plenty strong. I got the corners all welded up, so and a little bit there on the bottoms. So I'll get this thing, figure out what I'm going to do, if I'm going to weld those up or not, and then get it primered, get it painted, get it bolted on there. Battery tray is on there, it's painted, mounted on there. I went ahead and plated that top just in case somebody uses a smaller battery. It's not going to fall through. And then I started on the framing. This is just 1 by 1, and then 1 1/4 by 1 1/4 here to slide over. What I did was I had shorter pieces cut, and then I'm notching them out to go ahead and slide down over, and then for example, these will go into here. They'll slide into that. So these are actually my top my bars that come up right here, those two, and then those are 20 inches long, and this top bar is 16 5/8, same as the width between the actual stand. So I'll keep going. I'll make the top plate up here for the gauge panel, and we'll show you that next. Alright, so here I'm making these top pieces, putting an angle on these. That way this comes down at an angle. I'd rather have it come down at an angle versus just coming off straight and looking straight down on a gauge panel. It just kind of looks better in my opinion to angle them, so that's what we're doing here. I'm currently cutting them right now. Alright, so here's those pieces on. I'll go ahead and get those tacked in place and get this other middle bar in. You can kind of do this however you want. This is just kind of how I'm doing it. I think it looks good this way. So if you're going to build one of these, this is just a rough idea. We'll get them tacked on there. Alright, so this piece is what I was talking about, getting angled. It is welded and on there. So now I can go ahead and get my sheet metal, and it'll cover the whole front from top to basically roughly right here. And I'll probably make a separate piece to go over here. But this is starting to take shape, starting to look like something. I need to clamp these together now and get them drilled. That way this top piece is removable. You can bolt it on there and remove it. You can just roll the engine around. Once it's on there, you're probably never going to take it off, but don't heat the welds too much. I know you got your professionals out there that will critique everything, but you know, it's going to hold. It's just an engine run stand. It doesn't need to be, I mean, they're good for 1,000 pounds. This thing is only holding some gauges. So right now it's time for a beer, time for a break. Oh, that's good. Alright, I'll get these other pieces cut, trimmed, get the other engine run stands out of the boxes assembled, and I'll start making, I'm doing 4 at once, so it's easier. Just get all the materials, start cutting, get them assembled. Step by step, just do multiple at one time, kind of like your grandma's bingo night. I got my measurements. I think I'm going to try to do this in one piece with the bends. I got my nibbler, or well, it's not a nibbler. Yeah, shears, electric shear. I have air as well. They both work good. I just didn't want to turn on the air compressor, but we're going to try to see how this works out. Okay, so this is how the one piece turned out. I did this in a 2-piece before, but this will work. I actually have I pre-drilled these holes. I had the other one bolted on. I thought about riveting this one on, so this one here is actually for where I'm going to mount the fuel pump. So I have the fuel pump, and then I got a fuse block. I'm going to go ahead and mount the fuse block over here in the center somewhere, and then I'll probably just rivet this thing on. Got a couple black pin marks there. I'll drill my holes. I still have to take this thing back apart so I can paint it. I got it clamped on there just to make sure it's going to fit. What I used is just this bender here. That ended up working out really nice. So, getting closer, little by little. Like I said, I'm doing several of these at once, so kind of seeing how this is going. I don't have any framing done for the others. There's 2 of them are still in the box. I still got to get out. What I'm going to do, I'm going to put a switch panel somewhere here, and then 1, 2, 3 gauges, which will be voltage, water temperature, and oil pressure. So here's where we are with it. So I got everything under one color now. Primered and painted and bolted back down. I went ahead and my panel, I got it fitted, got my holes all drilled. I think I'm just going to rivet that one. I made holes for bolts on the main support, but I did that on the last one, and I think I'll just rivet them on from now on. That's kind of what I'm going to do. So here's the one-piece panel. All the holes are drilled. I'm actually going to make spots, as you know. I'll get it on there first, and then I'll start putting everything where it should go once I have everything. So what I have so far is I have the fuel pump, and it's actually going to mount like such, and then I'll have a hose that'll come off of this end and go through for the carburetor, and then the other end here will just go to a fuel jug. And then on the back side, on the underside of this, I'm going to have the fuse block. That'll go to all the gauges and the switch panel. You'll get to see all that come together as well. So it's coming together. Like I said, the welds aren't professional or anything. Don't mind everybody in the background. I got a few of them over here in the shop. So here it is so far. I'm gonna keep on keeping on. Alright, so here it is together with the fuel pump mounted on there. Just has the bolt goes through, and that's originally why I put these bolts. Like I said, on the next one I'm not going to do that. I'm going to rivet them on, kind of like how I did here. Just kind of make it a nice clean look. I need to drill a couple holes, one for where the fuel will go to the carburetor, go through there somewhere in the middle, and then also I need to make about 6 inches over where my throttle cable would go. And actually I made handle here, so this will go in here like such. I make brackets. I got to drill holes here. I got to make sure that I got enough room for 3 gauges, switch panel, and the throttle. Throttle is kind of an added deal to where you can rev your engine up. You don't have to use your hand and do it that way. I'll come through here with the throttle and the fuel. I'll put grommets in both of those areas and run a battery cable from the ground to the framing. I already drilled the hole, so I'll go ahead and add the ground, just basically a 6 or 8 inch piece of ground that'll go to the battery. Run a hot over to where the starter will sit, which will be on this side, and then off of that terminal on both the ground and the hot, I will run to the fuse block here, hot being on bottom, ground being on top. That'll mount right here in the middle somewhere and then I'll wire everything off that to the 3 gauges. Next step completed. On to the next. Have this thing about together. Minus wiring, it's getting pretty close. So here you can see I've got my battery cables on there to be able to put a battery on there. Got this ready to wire over to the starter. Like I said, I got several of these going on. So here they are, welded up. Drilling them for the holes for the supports, but this is what it's going to look like. Get my fuse block on here, get everything wired up, get everything wired so that this will be ignition, starter, and then you can wire these for, say, your fuel pump, water pump, fans. We can run a throttle here if you want to do that. Voltage, water temperature, oil pressure. So getting down to this stage, I think I'll get this one wired up and let you see this one. And this guy actually wants to have this one stickered up like the last one. So I'm going to go ahead and put some stickers on it, waiting for those to come in. This thing will be about ready to go out the door. Let me know what you guys think so far on all these builds that I've done. What would you do different? What do you think of these? How can I improve? You can of course add material to do radiator mount. Got the fuel stubbed in here. Tack wire. Distributor wire, holes for throttle, and then this would be for the water temperature sensor. So it's hanging down there. Get this thing wired up and about done. Alright, so I finally got this thing wired up. I got my power wire that's going to go towards the gauges. Just ran through the frame. Still waiting on wiring loom, but got the jump box here, got everything wired up. So again, waiting on wiring loom, clean this all up. I don't have a wire for the fans or a electric water pump. I do have my fuel pump wired up and my gauges wired up and my ignition on, starter. So it'll be ignition on, this will be starter, and right here is where I have my fuel pump. Gauge lights, got those going, and also the voltage. Once we get an engine on here, we'll be able to hook up temperature sensor and also the oil sensor. But this is it. It's getting down to ready to go. A little time consuming getting the wiring done, but it's really no more time consuming than the rest of the project. So like I said, this guy wanted it stickered up. We went ahead and got stickers put on it. Got to have some cool stickers. But this one's done. Like I said, let me know what you guys think. I did not go ahead and put a radiator mount on this. Everybody's going to run a different radiator, and trying to figure out mounts for each and every radiator, there's just no way. So no radiator mount. You can run your radiator on the ground. That's what I did on the last one. Alright guys, like and subscribe, and I'll keep putting out more content.